James.
Raph. Daniel.
G'day, boys.
Good to have Dan Nolan back on the podcast drinking a Korean beer.
I am.
This is classic Down Round areas. I think Dan, for those playing along at home, was literally our first guest on Down Round.
He was episode 21.
Oh, okay. That's later than I would have expected, to be honest.
Do you guys reckon I was the first guest?
I think so.
I think you were. We're pretty close to it.
Oh, back for a dub? For a second round?
This was 2022, I believe.
October 13, 2022.
And to catch people up on things, at that time, Dan was the founder of one company, since deprecated, I think is the word for that.
That's the right way to frame it, yeah.
Since deprecated. But after that, Dan started a company called Magic Brief, which was acquired by a little company you might have heard of, Canva.
That's right.
That's right.
He's back on Down Round.
Anyway, let's move on to the topic du jour, which I believe is...
Mate, don't try and take my job, mate. I know at the moment you're unemployed.
I am unemployed. It's fantastic.
So this is the man in the arena. He gets on a podcast and he immediately starts hosting it.
Well, no, the thing is that Raph and I had a conversation before,
Yeah.
Obviously, we started recording about our previous predictions on AI, and I think we've got a bit of a victory lap to take.
Yeah, that's right. So keen listeners of the pod will know that, we're partial to a victory lap or two. But you came on the pod, this is worth pointing out, before we all start patting ourselves on the back. You came on the pod a month and a half, 2 months-ish, before ChatGPT came out.
Yep.
And you came on the pod to talk about AI.
Yep.
Which wasn't that big of a thing then, I think.
No, the image models had started coming out, or getting slightly better.
It's like OpenAI, DALL-E and shit. Like there was some conversation
Early
about
diffusion models, right?
Early diffusion
Yeah.
stuff, yeah. So you came on. But anyway, we made a bunch of predictions. This is like, sounds really turned down to say, like, this is like, oh, really? I'm going to listen to you read AI? Yeah, sure. I found the transcript. I asked an unreleased AI model, like, what we got right and what we got wrong. So we're going to start with revisiting it. We'll get into some of the more recent kind of news in particular. Love to hear your take on open source. Love to hear your take on the Chinese, full stop.
Yep.
I mean, it's their century.
Amongst other things. But first, we got to see, like, this thing is, you, dear listener, you're probably thinking, how can I trust these guys?
Exactly.
How can I trust you?
Particularly if this is the first time you've listened to any episode of the podcast. You're
exactly.
a new listener, you're in Spotify, you've clicked something, Down Round, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Bang.
Who are these
Who are
clowns?
these clowns?
Who are these clowns? How can I trust them?
So, 2022, October 2022, a few months before ChatGPT, here are some of the predictions that came true. A bunch of kind of cryptid AI stuff, boring. Here's some big ones, and including me. I'll include some of my predictions in it.
Oh,
Raph predicted that AI would not immediately cause an apocalyptic singularity, but would instead become ubiquitous. Table stake, a ubiquitous quote-unquote table stakes tool integrated into existing professional workflows. He explicitly predicted a plug-in to a Photoshop or Illustrator equivalent to swap out textures, and law firms using AI for reading over contracts and identifying differences. Prescient.
I would say dub.
I'd say dub. Does any of it work? I don't know.
Well, the reality, this
people
was
are trying.
It does not matter because you live in that world now.
it gave me a rating of exceptionally prescient.
Genius degree.
Dan and Raph discussed synthetic sales avatars and voice modification, like Americanizing call center workers' accents. Dan predicted AI would be used to speedrun human connection, creating ersatz value via content farms and personalization video calls. I think that's very much true.
Huge dub.
And ersatz is the sort of word you were using at the time.
I use it now.
That's quoted. Substitute value, like fake value, whatever. So yeah, AI sales outreach. I think we're in the middle ground now. There's obviously definitely like AI scam calls and whatnot. But like, do you guys... I mentioned this on the pod before and you said you hadn't got one yet. I've gotten multiple now where it's like, hi, my name's Tanya. I'm an AI assistant. Like it starts with the obviously like presumably it's for legal reasons or whatever. It like tells you I'm AI, but it's just like a sales call. Anyway, that's obviously true. But this is a huge dub. I got to hand it to you, Nolan, on this one. The routing framework. Again, 2022. When discussing how general AI would work, Dan predicted we wouldn't talk to one giant sentient brain, but rather a, quote, routing framework that takes English structured sentences, does pre-processing, and pushes it off to a bunch of different kind of smarter submodels or APIs. Fuck, you were cooking.
Yeah, I've been proven incredibly correct.
That's the whole world economy now, mate.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, James, you got one in here too as well. The real power of generative AI is the distance between having an idea and making it real goes away.
Yeah, that's kind of cringe.
That's
I can't
actually,
believe I
but
said
also
that
it's
shit.
gotten a lot worse.
It's actually that made the world worse.
Made substantially
That made the world
worse.
substantially worse. I would love to hear my actual quote there, but that's
That
fine.
was the quote.
Oh,
The distance between having an idea and making it real goes away.
yeah, and we've seen the result of that, and it wasn't good.
Well, we didn't say it was bad or good.
I just
It was a power of it. Like
That's right.
A power doesn't, in my mind, is innately not good.
yeah, exactly. There should be no power. Everyone should live in harmony. We're men of peace.
Yeah, there was a couple of things it reckons that we were kind of off on. One of them was aimed at me in particular, but I would like to plead my case. So apparently I went on an anecdote about video AI struggling to understand what pavement is or how water reflects on it or how human feet interact with it without manual compositing.
Why did you get into feet?
He implied spatiotemporal physics.
Spatiotemporal
Physics simulation was a massive, nearly insurmountable hurdle, and this reckons like, oh, it's gotten pretty good. I disagree with that. I think the whole thesis right now of like, you know, of both the DeepMindy Demis Hassabis and also the Jan LeCun is like, no, these transformer-based architectures are not enough to get us there.
Even thinking machines has been on that stuff as well. There's been a whole bunch of people in the AI space that are like, cool, an LLM can do this, but we can't reason spatially or project stuff in a particular spatial way.
Yeah, it can like emulate it, but it's not. It doesn't actually know.
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
understand gravity in a way that a child does or whatever. So I'm claiming that's still a dub.
Okay.
Thank you. Apparently we were a little bit bearish on autonomous cars, but you know.
I think it's fair. Would you show me a single autonomous car that's being used by anyone in Australia?
Yeah, exactly. Point one, a single one out. We're here in Enmore. I didn't see one coming in.
I haven't seen anyone. If I can get a Waymo down King Street across the bridge, then boom, we've solved autonomous driving.
True, 4 years ago though. And then the last one, again, this is to do with me. Raph concluded that as AI automates production, the true human skill will be taste.
Oof, big dub.
I mean, we were at least ahead of the curve of people saying that.
Yes.
But haven't you seen we're going to teach AI how to have taste?
Yeah.
So now we're fucked.
Let me finish that thought. That became like the, you know, probably like what, 2 or 3 months ago, all of a sudden all the San Francisco guys were like, taste is the differentiator.
It is.
And I agree with them, but also they are going about it the wrong way.
But you've also seen this, I think there's been like 15 or 16 or like 20 or 50 or whatever, because there's such an endless pool of capital in the US of different, like we've built an AI agent that has taste for like architecture or design or XYZ. Like it has been this kind of like trailing line of, well, we've figured out the AI thing, but we haven't figured out how to make stuff look good.
How to make stuff good. Yeah.
How do we make stuff that people like? Well, once we get there.
I feel like every single AI model that comes out, like, I mean, web design is the one that always comes up because it's the one that they're mostly being used for. Like the use case for AI seems to be like 75% front end web design or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, so it feels like the labs are always trying to figure out, okay, let's make our model very tasteful and nice. And as a result, like Claude just likes websites that are purple or whatever. And as a result,
They all do. They love purple websites.
They love purple websites. And as a result, you see it immediately and go, oh, okay, that was like shut out by an LLM.
Yeah.
This like purple bubbly website.
But it is a tough one. I mean, again, reiterating something we said literally almost 4 years ago.
Yep.
But like,
But I just want to say, we were right about everything.
We were right about everything. We were right. Actually, I mean, I don't remember what we said. And when looking back on that, come on. There's a reason why people pay premium subscription.
Every time we go back into the archives, you know, I clench because I'm like, what the hell? What could I possibly have said? Did I say Trump can never win again? And then then I look in there and I'm like, I was wise 4 years ago and I'm wise now.
No, exactly. But like, it is true that like, it's because like taste is like someone who's cool. Maybe I said this is a literal thing 4 years ago. But like when someone's cool and they just like have a knack for kind of wearing the right things on the cutting edge and making it look effortless, and the same is true across all different, you know, that's what like design in general is. Yeah. Like it's like tapping into the zeitgeist and having an awareness of what people don't know they like yet. And so it still excites them.
This is something I want to sit Sam Altman and, you know, Dario Amodei down and say some of the dumbest guys I know have good taste.
Yeah.
There are some real morons that I know in my life that are like fashion forward or like artists or whatever and are like operating on that edge.
Yeah.
But I'm not
saying it can't be done by like an AI or an LLM, but it's a very hard problem.
Tough. It's tough to encode it.
It's a distribution problem for the most part because if you think about it, like taste is an outlier.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise it would be commonality.
That's really wise.
And if you are using these systems, which again are gigantic like piles of the kind of like averages of all these different inputs. Of course, you're not going to be able to have taste or output on the training side, as in we synthesize all this data, we put it together, and then we figure out a way to kind of like represent it, where taste becomes a discerning point. And I think this is like the Opus 4.5 moment, or some of the Fable stuff about design was they were like, cool, okay, in the what we call the reinforcement learning part of the training, right? We've trained the model, and now we're going to basically rebias the weights. The weights are the giant box of numbers that figures out which way that all the kind of internal stuff works and what it punches out. And then it's like, cool, you've designed this thing's a piece of shit, go again. The RL is like, imagine if you were training an LLM, but it's a pokey. And so you press it, it's like, nah, it didn't get a feature, fuck you, try again. Like, that is what that system looks like, of kind of remodifying. And the harness is just kind of messing with the underlying kind of mathematical structures that dictate the outputs of these systems. And they go like, okay, produce me a website for a guitar website that has like a tasteful hero and, really nice copy, and it's like, cool, do it again.
And then 10,000 people in Nigeria are saying good, bad,
100%. Yeah. It's like, do you get a feature or not? And I think this is kind of where we are with the models now, which is like training has been for the most part solved to a broader degree. And now we're talking about reinforcement learning and continuous learning as well. Continuous learning being like, how do we have these things not have to be reset and restarted? How can we kind of have it learn your taste or whatever and have it re kind of balance its weights?
Yeah.
Again, something that no one's really touching on yet, but is a thing that all the frontier labs care about to a broader degree. But I think the RL thing is real. Like, why is every website purple? Because the guys who were like, this looks sick, were like, purple looks sick.
The guys in Lagos were like, yes.
Yeah, but I find...
Or even Somaliland, like...
With web design, they shouldn't be free, in my opinion. With web design, if you say something like, give me like a minimal kind of Swiss minimalism modernist website, it looks like shit.
I mean, like a grotesque serif, I want kind of like high contrast. Yeah.
I feel like it always looks dog shit. But if you say, make me a website that emulates like classic Mac OS 9 or whatever.
So good at it.
It's so good at it, right? Or like something specific based on that, whereas like, which is kind of fits into the taste thing, right? It's like, it doesn't really understand kind of artistic sensibilities, but like if you give it a really specific example that like has data, I guess, around exactly how you can construct those certain, it has, its CSS or whatever in its training set, then it's actually good. Or, so typically when I am making my friggin' LLM-based websites, I just try and ramp up the silliness dial, right? Like, I mean, my stupid 13 months, it's like, make it like Japanese game show crazy. It can do that. But like, if you try and get a little bit more subtle with it, I know it's getting better, but
but you're talking about like there's a temporality to a lot of this stuff as well, right? Like, one of the things that is a big criticism of LLMs and LLM production is they are as good as effectively the training set plus reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning can't really bias all of the data that went into it. Whereas if you think about like all of the screenshots and discussions and CS everything about like, what does a classic macOS thing look like? Okay, we've got carbon typeface. We've got this particular grayscale. Like, we've got the particular like Susan Care icons and things like that. That is a very well-known, culturally understood thing. And what I mean by that is that not only is it produced by the original progenitor of that stuff, like Apple incorporated in 1988 or whatever, but all of the like second and third order reproductions that are kind of like downstream derivative works have also infected that training set, which is why you can get a sick like, 1988 kind of macOS website, which I know you have, and it's fucking gangster, but you can't probably get, like I can't go and sit down and draw something and be like, okay, I want to figure out some kind of like new like Neo Gold.
Well, that's right. Yeah. If you're trying to like make it creatively iterate and design something that no one's ever seen before, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, or it's going to struggle, right?
Well, it's going to, it's just,
But I mean, it could improve. But I mean, the other side of it is that if you go back and look at like the early OpenAI DALL-E, or the earlier AI art, before it got reinforcement learning into oblivion.
Also, they had better training data sets and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, but you look back at like the early DALL-E and it's like these weird impressionist things. You're like, this is an identifiable aesthetic that is weird. And I look at it and I go, that's early AI. I don't say, oh, it's a copy of this. Whereas now if you look at something and go, okay, that's a Mid-Journey.
Yeah.
It looks like fucking, or that's, that's clearly been generated with ChatGPT.
Yeah, well, case in point, if you go anywhere now and you wander around to any restaurant, every single poster or special, it's all GPT art, right?
Yeah, it's clearly ChatGPT.
And you can also tell the difference between their original image model and the new one as well. The new one has like different side pops and layouts. It's like the moment you see it, it's like
your brain, your lizard brain recognizes the ChatGPT.
You're in the savannah. There's a lion behind you.
Correct.
It's a menu for your restaurant that you walk past 100 times a day.
It's doing evil things in my brain. Although, let me just put it out right now. I'm going to put a line in the sand. The GPT burgers don't look good.
They
The
don't.
GPT food does not look very appetizing.
Have you guys been to Redfern Station recently? I know it's a weird request, but Redfern,
I'm
like
there.
on the corner, I think I can't remember the name of the street, but there's a grilled cheese place that had like a huge queue, but all the art is AI art, and the food looks inedible.
Yeah, exactly. It looks bad.
It looks shiny.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
find.
it's glistening.
And like bulbous often.
Yes, there's a lot of swollen appendages to the food.
Anyway, so, but you know, you're just saying like we've gotten better at absorbing all of that classic Mac IP, for example, in order to create. So therefore, I mean, should these model companies not have their amazing their amazing models distilled or stolen by these other models?
Stolen by the Chinese government. I
Did they
imagine.
not?
Yeah.
What's the deal there?
Well, I think so. Distillation, like this is the other.
We
problem,
should
right?
explain what distillation
Yeah.
is very quickly. Sorry, James, do you mind?
Explaining it. So distillation, and I think we talked about this slightly last week. I can't remember. But for those that don't know, this is the whole big kerfuffle at the moment with US government, Chinese labs, the American labs. The Chinese labs, or really any lab, trains on the outputs of another AI. So they use all the outputs from Claude in various ways to train their model. And the argument of the US labs is that this is essentially, they can then train a powerful new model like Kimi or DeepSeek or whatever for a fraction of the cost of what the US models spent to train Claude or GPT or whatever. This is the big argument.
And this is theft, is kind of the latest.
It's stolen. Yeah, we did talk about this last week. We talked about the fact that, you know, the argument that you imbibed a whole bunch of world culture and world outputs, and now the Chinese are simply doing it to you again. This is what we talked about last week.
I think the cute thing here is that neither of the two primary frontier labs, OpenAI or Anthropic, has described it as theft.
Yeah.
I think only one lab has really complained about this broadly, and it's Anthropic, and they call it a broad-based distillation. I think they use the attack framing.
It's like a cybersecurity thing, right?
100%. I think the other thing, just to kind of to bolster James's point, is distillation isn't about output, it's about the entire process. It's about input, created, output. And so when you're doing...
explain distillation.
Yeah, so...
Actually explain it.
No, it's just like...
I've explained it twice, and I think I did slightly different.
I'll give you like a weird canned example, right? So say you wanted to figure out a way to build like the world's best ice cream, right? And this is going to, again, sound incredibly fatuous, but please bear with me.
No, this is the peasants at home will love
You would
this
go
shit.
and have a whole bunch of people build different recipes, but you'd need to include the recipes and the process and the output as part of it. So say you had the world's best ice cream judges judge these things, and you had like 10 or 15 of them, and they gave it a different kind of matrix score. The inputs and the process are crucial to mapping to the output. You can't just take the output and feed it back into the system because it won't give you what you need. Like effectively,
You can't just say here's delicious chocolate ice cream.
Exactly. You need to know how it was produced.
Yeah.
Because those traces and those other things are part of both either the training set or the reinforcement learning set that exists. And so distillation is quite important because you can use it for automated RL. Right. So you can say, okay, and like the way that the Chinese labs are doing this stuff is really fascinating, right? They will say to a whole bunch of people, here's a free Anthropic subscription. Go and use it as much as you want to slurp up every single interaction that you have and save their data sets. And there are guys who are like, cool, you've got an Anthropic sub, you should install this app that saves all your traces locally because that's actually effectively your IP is going into the machine. You're getting this other thing. Like, I think the distillation stuff is going to be the biggest, if we're going to make a prediction, distillation is going to be the kind of the biggest war over the next kind of 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, but this is at the reinforcement learning kind of stage.
To a degree, there's a whole bunch of weird stuff.
Like some pre-training done.
Yeah, you can't go from like, I've got a model that I've trained on, you know, the Merriam-Webster dictionary and turn it into something that can produce CSS. But you can take, and this again, like Thinking Machines, I think, which is one of the other big labs run by Mira Murati, who I believe used to be the former CTO of OpenAI. Yeah. They released an open model that's been called Thinky that people have been talking about. But they said they distilled from one of the, I believe, Kimi, not K3, but one of the other Chinese models, and said that again, what they used is like the reinforcement learning harness. And where this gets a little bit weird is a lot of these labs that are producing these models are using other open source models as part of the reinforcement learning process. So say, for example, you say to it, like, what's the capital of France? Like, that is a knowable, to a broader degree, understandable fact. And you can have 400 other LLMs kind of swarm over this and say, to what degree do you think this is accurate? So you say, okay, you made a new website. How do we center a div in CSS? Different ways to do it. But again, you have a whole bunch of different LLMs. And where we're going to end up in this weird system is we will have people producing these different models and then having hundreds of other models kind of pour over and rip these things apart and figure out, like, to what degree is this actually matching the intent of what we want. And that, I think, is going to be, again, another thing that'll be interesting over the next couple of years.
Yeah, but that works really well going back to our earlier conversation with obviously like coding or,
Yes.
as you say, like facts, I suppose, but far less with, is this a good picture?
Totally, yeah. And I think to your point about art and taste, I think taste always has been an outlier, and art always has been an outlier. Like the average person painting let's take Adolf Hitler for example. Like a workaday painter,
A historical figure,
well known but not known for his painting. Like he did a bunch of painting.
Some circles,
yeah. But of course, like if you think about like over history, like there were probably more artists, kind of floating around doing this kind of stuff. But we had these like outliers that were the artistic greats. You had like the Monets, you had like the Warhols, stuff like Warhol's not necessarily a great artist, but you had a whole bunch of different kind of.
That's a controversial topic, but fair enough.
But the world's best artists, I think like Sidney Nolans, those kind of guys, really knew what they were doing.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. Knew what they were doing. And I think the thing is like, art always is a little bit out of distribution, and so is taste. Like because we're novelty seekers.
Well, that is literally Fuck, I didn't think we were going
Where does Hitler come into that?
We're going to get into a deep conversation with art with Dan Nolan.
Well, Hitler was bad at art, but good at other stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But again, like, sorry to get onto the art for the tech heads who are listening, but I think that is largely the point of art, though, is like take it to the furthest extreme, and then you have like tastemakers and culture comes all downstream of like whoever's taking it to like the edgiest of edgy, and it all kind of trickles down, whatever. Which maybe that's like a whole topic of dead internet theory, which to be honest, I find not that fun to talk about. What I do want to talk about, though, is then, but what's your take then? So last week, I think I said, or maybe the week before, whenever it was my whole take on both distillation and open source is this entire kind of debate, which is should we ban open source, should we ban distillation, is a hiding to nothing because like both of them are going to happen regardless.
Well, I think there's also like an economic incentive. If you look at it, what I believe Microsoft did this week was they said, cool, we're going to move a whole bunch of workloads off OpenAI's models onto Kimi. And I think the Kimi moment has been, like we saw the DeepSeek moment last year. We've saw the stuff with GLM earlier this year from ZAI. Like China is, and I made a tweet about this, like China is dumping machine intelligence on the West to a big degree. Yeah. And they're making again, these are not open source models, and I think it's really important.
I should clarify that.
Yeah, we got cooked in the Discord for saying open source.
And we said open source. We meant
open weight.
We said both of them. We said both of them. They're not interchangeable.
But people do say open source. It's shorthand.
Yeah. So the link. Again, I understand why the autists in your Discord are upset about it because
let's explain.
They're nice people.
Open source and open.
No. Like again, you need to be exacting. Like it's very important. So open source. I think in the true sense of like, I would say the like Linus Torvald or like Free Software Foundation view of open source is the outcomes that we produce from this software, we should be able to repeat it. So all of the things that go into it, I should be able to basically download and rebuild that piece of software. So Linux kernel, good example, I download the whole source, I can compile it from scratch, I can build it. I cannot, with an open weight model, reproduce that model.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm going to go back a step. So open source being, I can download this application, do whatever I want with it. It's...
Well, no. I think there is the...
Well, not do... Okay, sure.
It's not to get into like the real kind of like Richard Stallman tangent, but it is like, can I download the thing that create the piece of software, or is the piece of software free for me to use? And that's a distinction that I believe that the prescient members of your Discord made.
But to the open source means I can download the code of an application and
I can build it myself.
And I can, depending on the license or whatever, but I could even then go and sell that, with
essentially,
my changes.
yeah. Like GPL versus MIT, 100%.
Yeah, like obviously it's slightly different licenses, but like that is effectively what open source means. I can download all of the code of the thing and repackage it, do it, and like change it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, like if you went like Richard Stallman, again, the guy who was, I think, the head of the Free Software Foundation, was talking about like...
Interesting cat.
A very interesting guy, loves parrots, weird feet. His entire... very weird feet.
Actually, I just want to pause on that. Guys, if you're looking for a bit of weekday viewing... Hit up YouTube, search for Richard Stallman eats something off his foot. This is a classic YouTube video of the, I want to say mid-2000s.
I think it was 2004, 2005, yeah.
Okay, look, speaking of autists, this guy knows when Richard Stallman...
I know my Stallman law, don't get me wrong. I'm an open BSD guy.
He's giving a lecture at MIT or something, and he's got his legs crossed, barefooted, talking about free software.
It's legal.
And at some point, he picks something off his big toe and eats it.
Well, yeah. Look, I for one, I'm glad.
So that's
like,
what open source is.
No, but I'm also glad that open source has like a Slavoj Zizek. Like, it's kind of important.
He's a weird gentleman.
But sorry. I know we've digressed here, but But to your point, like, so what do we like? The lingua franca of open source is like I can run this model on my hardware, but it's not de jure true, right? Open source in the pure software sense is I should be able to reproduce the outputs of this thing. And I think for LLMs, that becomes a little bit nebulous and a bit weird because that requires you making available all of the data and a lot of the data
like
to train the training data. Yeah. And then, but also say
so when we say open weights, we mean like I can download the model and I can like run it locally or whatever I want, and potentially build
whatever hardware I have. Blah blah.
But I don't get the training data set.
Yes, I don't. I get like the binary or whatever the particular thing is packaged in, and I get the tensor package, which is the weights, and I can fuck with those to a broader degree. So I can fine tune it, right? So fine tuning basically means that I organize and orchestrate a bunch of inputs and outputs, and those reorganize and reorient the weights so that when I ask it a question, it is then more likely to answer in the way that I've trained it.
Yeah.
Post-trained or fine-tuned it.
Anyway, so yes, this week, NVIDIA, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, he released a letter that was in defense of open source because basically it's been kicking around the traps that will the US government ban open source AI models effectively.
And I think to be fair, the community that supports this stuff is a bit like once bitten, twice shy because the Fable ban, some of the stuff about Sol and some of the other 5.6 models being released, it looks like Scott Bessent, who I believe is the Treasury Secretary, put his thumbs on the scale about access to this stuff outside of the US because they had a big freak out. I think Dario said, like, I built a bioweapon or a cyber weapon or whatever, and a bunch of people inside the US government believed him and kind of freaked out. I'm like, shit, we're going to lock this stuff down. And it feels like an emetic has been taken that's been pushed out of the system, and now we're kind of moving past that. But now the new freak out is, oh my God, these open source models are dangerous, or they're Fable grade open source models, and what are we going to do about it? And we're living in this kind of like marketing hype. Like, I'm not going to say that like Fable and Mythos and stuff like that are not bad models for cybersecurity. They are quite good. I have not played around with Mythos, but I played around with Fable before it was available. This stuff is good, but it's also just like at some point, like it was all reinforcement learning. Like it was not a train that made it really good. They were like, let's really focus this model on cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is like, okay, cool. I'm going to go and look at every pointer in this C program and make sure it's allocated correctly. I'm still mad about the Mythos and Fable stuff. Sure. But what I mean is that they were not trained. The big thing was like, these things can hack everything. They can't. What they could do is they were really effective at looking at your own internal source code and finding bugs. And that I think was the thing that was not adequately explained to the public was this thing's not roaming around the internet looking for endpoints to hack. It was, if you give me your 5, 6, 7 million lines of source code, I can find stuff where you fucked up 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been in production.
And that's what's obviously been great for. But yes, I agree. Like a lot of the discourse was like, this thing is ready to start agentically roaming around the web.
Yeah, the internet, if we don't get on top of this thing, the internet as we know it is all going to be hacked by tomorrow. Like your bank's gone, just like forget about it. But onto the open source or / open weights thing. So Jensen puts out a letter that's like, we support open source, we support open weights, we think that that's crucial to a free
internet. And to be clear, from Jensen's perspective, he loves this shit because the more models there are, the more NVIDIA hardware that's running.
Yeah, the last thing Jensen wants is for one or two companies to be massively dominant because if they're the only customers, then they have leverage in.
As we've seen, they want to build their own chips.
And they want to build their own chips. They will do custom ASICs and then they'll take the margin.
They'll disintermediate NVIDIA.
And it is in Jensen's interest. Same reason why he supports neoclouds and he wants the diffuse data centers everywhere who are buying NVIDIA chips. It's not all just being sold to, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. Is like, again, he wants that diverse customer base. Then there's pricing power, there's leverage, they can take the margin.
And also why I believe they released an open source model, I think called Nemotron or something like that as well.
I've been using for my my speech to text that I use.
Parakeet, probably the GOAT model, right?
And so NVIDIA have been doing a bunch of like little open source stuff. But so it is definitely in his interest, but this is kind of snowballed, this letter, because it became like almost like, remember back in the day, it was like, you need to post like a black square on Instagram due to like during Black Lives Matter or whatever.
Yes.
I feel like signing the letter has become that for like if you're a company.
Are you saying Silicon Valley's gone woke?
No.
Although actually I will say they kind of have. And I know other people have pointed this out, but like some of the language that's been used around the open weight shit on X among like
are we calling people in?
The AI post where it's like read the room. your tone is weird. I was
did
like,
see that,
guys,
yeah.
you're sounding like 2015 era like social justice Twitter, but you're talking about open weight models. Pull your head in.
The point is, so by now, everyone has signed it but Anthropic.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is the thing that is called...
Well, no, and ISIS.
And
I saw today a lot of people were quite upset that ISIS is not supported by
ISIS is yet to support it. We'll see. By the time you're listening to this, ISIS may have signed
I feel
on.
like ISIS...
I feel like they're going to get into it.
My instinct would be that ISIS would like open source models.
Do you think?
Oh, I think
don't
in my
know.
mind,
They're
ISIS
pretty
is-
single track minded.
Yeah.
Did you read that? I don't know if you saw it. There was this academic paper that someone did,
I know exactly what
which
you're
was
talking
about
about.
how Boko Haram was using AI.
They were using, they asked Grok how to like reload their rifles and stuff like that. It rocks.
Like there's a whole bunch of guys in like the Sahel or whatever who are like doing, guerrilla warfare, and like they're asking Grok how to use their equipment.
Yeah, the guy's like, I can't clear the chamber on my AK-47 that I've got. And it's like, have you tried using machine oil?
Yeah.
It might be full of sand. Knock it upside down. And the guy's like, inshallah, brother, puts the fucking banana clip back in and goes back out to war
But
against the infidels.
the example they used is like they planned with some agentic system, I can't remember what it was, that was doing math and whatever, like how fast they would need to be doing their motorbikes to jump over
that's right.
to jump over a bridge.
I would not be trusting
Matt,
an LLM to do
I would
that.
not. Yeah, I would not.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
I fucked up using LLM the other day because I was trying to make pancakes. And I was like, it'll like I put a nagi recipe and I was like, I need to multiply this or whatever. And it was like, cool, you need to put
It's all there in recipe today. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like, but I'm just, the interface is annoying. So I was like, take this. And it was like, cool, you need to put 4 tablespoons of baking powder. And I was like,
that's going to go
and I was
crazy.
like, well, that's categorically not true. I'll tell you what, I'll put 1 tablespoon of baking powder in.
I heard this story because your wife told me you did this.
Oh, yeah, damn. Fuck, I was wondering when you were going to bring this up. Yeah. Because she was like, yeah, Dan was really serious about it. And I was like, no, I really didn't fuck this up. Then I took a bite of it. I was like, I just reckon the eggs were bad.
Now imagine if you were asking
Yeah,
how to
it's zesty on the tongue
do a
when you
raid
do
on
that.
a village in
But also,
Somaliland.
you and I are Irish. So, like, I just have that, like, cultural need for
Distantly.
soda bread. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
I just hate yeast more than anything.
You got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Anyway, so back to the open weights, open source. Everyone signing on because, to be honest, there was a bit of peer pressure because of the woke agenda, basically.
I
Fear
was
of cancellation.
seeing all these posts being like, Meta has signed. Was Meta one of them?
I think Meta did, yeah.
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
Meta,
that would've been
Microsoft.
Yeah. Apple didn't.
Apple did.
Google has.
Google did. And Google has open source models, obviously, or open weights models. They have
Really good ones, by the
Gemma,
way.
Gemma, which is widely enjoyed.
But
yeah.
So what's your take on all this, though? And Anthropic, though, right now, as you're hearing this, released a statement.
Yes.
Did you read it? It's not great.
I read people saying this is a weirdly worded thing, but I think it was released a few hours ago, and no, I haven't got around to it.
Look,
Busy man.
I'll be fair, I skimmed it, but it was apparently penned by Dario. It was like, if this stuff is not dangerous, it's good for everyone, but
it could be dangerous.
what if it's dangerous? And I think again, like Dario has probably posted himself insane. I think we could see like the Fable stuff was a good example of him not being able to interface with the US government.
No, exactly.
And they found like another, like, hey, we've got another Anthropic founder behind the couch. We're just going to pull him out and make him talk to Pete Hegseth.
It seems like, I mean, this is natural. Obviously, the core of Anthropic is a bit, culty. They're Bay Area rationalist types. They really believe, like, you can't say they're cynical. They believe what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But at this point, there's a bunch of operators who are like, I need to be working at the most valuable company on earth.
Yeah.
I do not give a fuck about this weird polycule shit that you're into.
Can you imagine if you were in sales at Anthropic and you're about to close like, a $5 billion deal over 10 years and your CEO's like, oh man, but what if like it kills everyone? You're like, bro, I need to get to President's Club. I'm going to hit my OTE. The fucking bonus on this is going to be huge. Can you shut the fuck up?
I just saw they're hiring in Sydney for like a lead enterprise sales guy for Australia, and I was like, imagine trying to find someone who's in the Sydney software sales community who's like aligned,
Who knows what EA is.
who's like aligned on that weird rationalist shit.
Yeah. Look, but the flip side, so there's no reason why they should sign that letter.
No, I mean,
this is
God,
like
no.
such a weird witch hunt thing.
No, but
Like,
it was- no, but it
will
was-
they sign it to prove their loyalty to open source or
No, but
whatever?
it was deliberately a targeted wedge against them. Like
Yeah.
this
Yes.
was an entire op against Anthropic, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it won, but this is also part of the broader, it is the mandate of heaven argument now, right? Like Anthropic had the mandate of heaven, I'd say the first quarter of the year. China had it for a bit. OAI's had it for a bit. China's got it back right now. Anthropic has lost the man into heaven.
Yeah, exactly. Their vibes are down. They're in vibe recession.
Yeah, I mean, but this mandate is basically all based on like what are devs in organizations using as their like day-to-day driver, right? Like when we talk about the mandate, that's effectively where it comes from, starts and ends.
Where people at the frontier are using it. Like the guys who post on X all day, what do they currently think is the coolest?
But I think the thing is those are not the guys.
No, they aren't the guys.
Yeah.
Like that, it's whoever is convincing the CTOs who are convincing the CFOs that we need to be paying Anthropic X amount of millions of dollars a quarter to use their models. Like that's what's driving it. Because the guys on X, they hate Anthropic. Like there's all those, like all of, not, a bunch of them are like, gotta hand it to them, this fucking rocks. But like, the David Sachs of the world have just hated Anthropic from day one due to woke and like, their mentality, etc.
No, I think you're right. Like the general sentiment on, I would say Twitter, not X, is like negative towards Anthropic.
We think Elon is one of the greatest businessmen in American history.
I bet he's the only, he's a trillionaire now, or was a trillionaire. Whatever.
No, not anymore.
That's fine. He'll get back there.
He's out of there because SpaceX AI is down, or SpaceX.
That's fine. They'll figure it out. They'll put Grok on it. But I think you are right.
They'll put Grok on the moon.
They will, hopefully, ideally. But I think like even when they release like Grok 4 heavy build, and people are like, holy shit, this thing's fucking incredible. And it's like, is it? It's part of like a weird kind of interspersed melange of bullshit I can plug into or not. Like, I think you're right. Like the average guy who's working at like CBA or working at a bunch of these other businesses in the US or working at other businesses here is probably just using Claude Code all day.
Yeah.
Or more likely is probably using Cursor to a degree as well. Like having talked to people and having seen the splits in different organizations, it's kind of 30-30-30. It's like 30% OpenAI, 30% Cursor, mostly Composer and some of their internal models because they're cheap and really easy to use, and then 30% kind of Anthropic to a broader degree.
Yeah.
And I think that the guys who are on Twitter are bouncing between these like, fuck, I need alpha immediately. I need to have the best, most hot thing. But if you're a software engineer who's like in his early 40s, who's floating around again, like a big bank or an insurance agency or like, a big tech in Australia, you probably just got Claude Code, use it,
Sonnet.
Clock in, Sonnet, whatever it is, Sonnet, Opus, whatever. Clock in, write, 1,000 lines of Java or whatever, and then go home, talk to your wife or whatever. Or your anime wife.
That's a beautiful life. That's actually a beautiful life.
Yeah. Like
let's not talk down on these guys.
This is the other thing, is the vast majority of people that are what I would describe as software practitioners, to their credit, do not give a fuck about any of this shit.
Yeah.
That it's like if you had a work car, you just wouldn't give a fuck about it.
Yeah, but where does this go is what interests me. It's like, okay, so right now there's this massive debate about, friggin' open weights versus open source versus closed models versus distillation and all this kind of stuff. Like, at the end of the day, could it be that it will just muddle through and the frontier labs will keep making probably just ahead of open source as like the best models? A lot of people will just keep using them. A lot of organizations will keep using them because, to be fair, like maybe, you could argue the modular play that over time organizations realize, hold on, we could save money by using these Chinese open source models and blah, blah, blah. And we can run them locally so we don't have to worry about security. Or you have what's kind of always happened with enterprises. It's like, just use fucking Anthropic and OpenAI or Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini, whatever. Use the one we trust. We're not doing that shit.
Yeah.
We're not jumping around from models from month to month, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I personally think the frontier models will always have like a bit of a business model there. Whether they can get the margins that they kind of can now, not that they're making any money, but or they can make the margins that justify the massive training runs. We'll see, I guess. We'll see. That'll play out. But they're going to have a business because it's just going to be most large, serious enterprises are not being like, oh, let's jump on Kimi, let's jump on DeepSeek.
Well,
like that is a process that your CTO has to say yes to, Like,
yeah, but if you're already on like AWS or GCP, so on AWS you've got Bedrock, right? Which is effectively every model that you want. Like Amazon had a bunch of their own models they built that apparently nobody uses. You can use all of the Claude models through Bedrock to a broader degree.
Yeah, you can use OpenAI now as well.
Yeah, exactly, OpenAI. Like I think their model is, we'll sit inside your cloud and this stuff won't leave the cloud and that matters. But I think also...
It's the Microsoft strategy as well. And they're basically saying that's more important. Our layer on top is the most important thing.
Yes, exactly.
Don't enter into deals with like any of these guys. They'll just steal your data.
But I think also the thing that we're missing here is, why did the open source moment happen? It happened because of cost, right? I think the thing was that we were seeing runaway costs. Like, I know it's Pat's talk about again, but the Uber CTO being like, we've gone through our entire token spend inside of 3 months. And what we saw was, particularly from OpenAI, here's 3 versions of our 5.6 variant model that have drastic different cost curves. And so you've got Sol, Terra, and Luna, I believe, that are like well suited for different tasks, but are incredibly cheap. And they said, look, you can use our cutting edge model and it will use fewer tokens and it will cost less and be smarter. And I think the Frontier Labs were going for like blue ocean. Let's consume as much of the blue ocean as possible. Now it's like, okay, we need to live in a constrained world where the average developer who works at the average kind of mid-weight company is going to get 500 USD of tokens a month, say.
Yeah.
Right? So what does it look like to just abut that budget?
Yeah. The Pareto curve.
Yeah,
Let's leave it there and then go into episode 2. If you want the alpha of us, maybe talking about the future, maybe talking about some other things, you can sign up whereabouts?
Downround.net, folks. Get on there. If you don't subscribe, you're a fucking moron, folks. Whoa. Sorry, I take that back. You could be all right.
You shouldn't take that back. They are morons.
Okay, they're morons.
Although I do use my wife's sub.
I know you use your wife's sub. That's all right. That's not a problem. That's not a problem.
It's a household sub.
I don't mind if there's one per household.
Yeah.
But if you share it beyond that, you're in my bad books.
One per workplace? Is that even possible? I feel like you're going to screw up your own experience if you do that.
Exactly. We should get into...
You should actually do workplace subs.
We should try to get into like Commonwealth Bank and just sell 1,000 heads.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, anyway, downround.net, folks. Subscribe. You get one extra episode per week on top of the free episode. You can join our Discord. I know we had some very nice things to say about our fans in Discord who are always correcting us, even though we are broadly correct.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're broadly correct. Directionally correct. That's the only thing we've ever claimed to be. Directionally correct.
It's the world's most directionally correct podcast.
Are you guys maximally truth-seeking?
Yes.